Okay, welcome to the 36th Hawaii iOS Developer Meetup. The quote of the week is Steve Jobs. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It is life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. How's it going, Tyler? So we have upcoming meetups. September 7th, O'Neill is going to be covering Swifty Store Kit for in-app purchases. On September 14th, I'm going to be covering view controllers and segues. Earlier, Che and I were talking about programmatically unwinding segues as potentially something to talk about. And then on September 21st, I'll be covering ARKit with part 3, focusing on Unity ARKit plugin. This week's pro tip is Shift-Command-O. I'd used this before to open files quickly, but I also found out that you can do this with, you can find functions really quickly with it. So if I have a function, let's say view did load inside of this one, I'll just do a Shift-Command-O, view did load, and there it is. It's pretty fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, instead of copying it. And so I go back to the notes. Scrolling and pecking. Housekeeping. This is a Hawaii iOS Developer Meetup. You can go to meetup.com, Hawaii iOS Developer Meetup. If you're interested in becoming a member of HICapacity, you can go to hicapacity.org/membership. And this one, the bathroom is now at the iLab. The bathroom is right over here. Wanted to share free tools. Right now I'm using Spectacle app. If you're interested in getting an invite, just give me your email address. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Screen Hero on that one. Spectacle app is free, but if you're interested in using Screen Hero to pair program, I can give you an invite. Today's agenda is a little different. So just a show of hands who saw anything on the Meetup page. Anybody see anything on the Meetup page? So cards on the table, my computer crashed just last night. My brand new MacBook Pro 2017 crashed. So right after this, I'm going to go take it in. But because of that, I had a lot of this stuff coded, and I tried to code it this morning, but I just ran into a wall, just not enough time. And then also, because I'm building with Xcode 8 and I have iOS 11 installed on my phone, I can't build to my phone anymore to really take advantage of the documents directory that was part of the tutorial tonight. So for tonight, I kind of want to leave it up to you guys. What's going on, Neil? If you guys want to do, we can go over what I've written so far for image caching best practices, or we can do a mob programming challenge, which might get everyone involved in doing exorcism.io, a raindrops challenge. So just have a think about that, and we'll loop back to it once we do the introductions. Okay, so let's go from here. Who wants to start? Okay, Che. Congratulations on the progress. Anybody else want to go next?
I'll go next.
Oh, so that's first.
My name is Leo. I'm currently working on I'm in the process of going through the app review process. Has been kind of a headache. I think probably everybody knows that sometimes the reviewers they don't seem quite fair sometimes.
Oh yeah.
At times, but yeah, I'm going back and forth with this reviewer about my app, and it feels like it's beyond guidelines at this point. Like he's trying to tell me that my app is like a Japanese-English puzzle game, but he's telling me that some translations are incorrect.
Whoa.
And I'm like, wow, that has like nothing to even do with the Apple guidelines, it seems. Yeah. And they are correct. But anyway, that's where I'm at right now. So I sent him my messages politely and sorry. And we'll see where it goes.
I hope it gets resolved.
Are you filing an appeal? No, I'm not filing an appeal. I I just finally told the person that it's a puzzle app, and my girlfriend, my fiance is Japanese, and I've ran everything by her, and everything is correct as far as I understand. Is what I told them. So hopefully, hopefully it'll get there. Yeah, it seems like overstepping the review process. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like checking your quiz questions.
Yeah, we'll see.
But like I said, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
You may have to do that because when they tested my app, it crashed on their IP version 6 network because I haven't used that.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. That's why I got rejected before I'm gonna go for it again, see what happens. But I tested on a friend's IP version 6 network and stuff like that. So again,
I think all the reviewers use that IP6, and it's kind of like part of their boilerplate response. Where we're using like an iPad on an IPv6 network. There's this problem, so it could even be that the problem is not even related to IPv6. It's just that that's their default go-to message, and it tricks some people. Like that could have nothing to do with it, but that's just the message they give to everybody. So.
the thing is, that's why if worse comes to worse, file an appeal.
Yeah,
It's part of the process.
Yeah, you have nothing to lose. That's right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Neil, you want to go next?
Nice. Yeah. So, Neil, here for a little bit, kind of slowly but surely getting back to the group. I've been kind of like aimless, I guess, for the past like few weeks. Tried out a few things, tried a little bit of Sprite Kit, kind of mess around with that, see kind of like how it does. I started a couple like just kind of like simple like test apps, one with kind of like music and the other one. I have a quiz game at the App Store. Started like messing around with them for quiz it for Spanish to learn Spanish.
Okay, yeah.
So that's when my kid is taking Spanish in high school.
Yeah.
Spanish is my first language.
Yeah.
So I was like thinking, hey, if I can just make an app and just put it in Stone, you practice, you know, without I don't know, without just a piece of paper, it might be more entertaining for him. It might help older kids out there too. So I'm kind of in the process, kind of like messing around with that, doing kind of like updating the content for the other quiz app using kind of same template, and maybe see if I can, I don't know, learn maybe an extra technology to that and kind of just apply, just kind of like do this one improvement, do something better, and go from there. So messing around with that slowly but surely.
Really?
Yeah.
But little stuff at a time.
Yeah.
So, you
That's all you can do.
So, my name is Hada. I just go on search for a lot right now.
All right, I'll go last. My name's David. I'm from Oahu. Currently working on navigation bar controller. And I guess I want to learn more. Well, right now, everything's on hold. So I've got to get my computer fixed. My computer crashed.
No way.
My brand new MacBook Pro 2017 crashed. So I got to take it in. I'm going right after this. Take it in.
When it happened, like
Last night. I'm so pissed. I'm so pissed.
But you know what? Like I said, by 2011, died out a couple of times too. One time I was eating in at a restaurant and then I was working on it, it crashed something like that. It was that GPU issue. But it was
I hope this is just some minor thing, but I've got the point where it's a safe boot in the top in red, right? And I try to log in and it just flickers.
Okay.
Do you have like a bunch of code on that computer?
I pushed everything, yeah. So I'm happy. Like they can wipe it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would have been really bad. Yeah, all the projects I've had on GitHub.
Do you just have like a RAID at home, something like that? So back over just like.
Oh no, just the GitHub. I've just been pushing my code. Yeah,
Okay,
to repos. Yeah.
So you can always pull back.
Yeah. It's more just like it's brand new. You know? Like,
Yeah, I know what. It's called defective product.
yeah, I'm like maybe don't fix it. Maybe just give me a brand new computer. You know? But,
I think I'll-
and upgrade the processor.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if that's good.
Okay. So, all right, so we just did the introductions. We've got like 45 minutes today. So up to you guys, maybe just by a show of hands, I can either go through the image caching code that I have just kind of written already. We can talk it through, even like whiteboard it, but we can't run it on the device because this is iOS 11 and I need iOS 10. So run it from my Xcode 8 to this one. So we're kind of stuck there. Or we can do a mob programming challenge, which I have kind of set up right here. This is raindrops. Just a show of hands. Who's done exorcism stuff before? Exorcism? Okay. So this is a possibility. Basically what it does is with exorcism.io, you can download projects that uses a test-driven development process to complete the assignment that they have here. So you're using tests to verify that your code works properly. So that's something we could potentially do today as well. So just maybe a show of hands, just real quick, informal, like who wants to do the image caching, go over the image caching code?
Can we do both, or is there not?
Yeah, probably the image cache would be really fast. So we could do, maybe we'll do that one first and then we'll jump into, okay. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. So let's just dive right into it. So I just did a write-up for tonight's discussion. I'm just going to start maybe at the bottom right here. So the goal of the image caching process that would be best for me, best practices, would be to minimize the network requests needed, to save the data transfer costs for the users by not making them have to download images they already have on their phone, and also to speed up the serving of local images by keeping them inside of the cache. So in order to do that, this is kind of just like best practices I've read up online. I had a ton of Stack Overflow links. It's actually in the code too, so I'll go back to that later on. But just a bird's eye view for this one is it's kind of these three pieces. So I'd be using Alamo Fire to download the images asynchronously, be using user defaults to save the images. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So I use Alamo Fire to download the images asynchronously, and then I would be saving the images to the documents directory within the iPhone itself. And then I would be leveraging NSCache to load up the images, create images, so that whenever a new image or an image that you already have is required, that's loaded up in the cache already as a UI image. So you don't have to go through any heavy lifting. Let's say you have like, I don't know, like a 100 megabyte image file. If you used NSCache, you wouldn't need to create the image again. It would just be there sitting in there. So with those pieces in mind, my proposed solution, just piece by piece, would be right here. Just first of all, check the cache to see if there's an image asset inside of it. If you find it, load it from the cache. If it's not found, then check the documents directory on the phone for the image asset. If you find it, load that image into the cache and then load it into the image view. But if you don't find it inside the documents, then you download the asset, the image asset with Alamo Fire, save it to the documents folder, and then save it to the cache. So it's kind of like a process to just make it faster and faster and faster and to minimize the amount of data that has to go through. One reason why I wanted to focus on this, just to give it context, is that I attended like a usability seminar, and it was really surprising to me to hear that some students turn off images on web pages on their phones to save like battery, to save download, all the data stuff. So kind of with that in mind, I was thinking, how would we go through best practices to minimize the amount of data that each app run would require? So any questions? Because that's kind of the bird's eye view. And then we'll go into the code after. Any questions?
One question.
Sure.
We'll start the code.
Yeah, I'm planning to. Yeah. It's kind of janky right now, so definitely not going to post it. I'm not going to post it. It's a lot of commented out stuff too.
I wonder why.
But yeah, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So, I've heard about Alamo Fire, just not familiar exactly what it is. It's just like a CDN.
Content delivery network.
Yeah.
What
is, how would you explain Alamo Fire?
How about let's go to the page, the Alamo Fire page, the CocoaPod page, and then they'll probably do a good explanation.
It's a library kind of networking route that you have to write all
Yeah, so you can do percent loaded, all that kind of stuff with the images. Any assets coming through.
Okay, any networking code.
Yeah, any networking code.
Yeah, the networking library.
Does it handle just IPv4 or
Six.
IPv6?
You should be able to handle HTTPS. Should be able to handle those.
I've got another issue on this computer specifically where the charger sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I'm at 11% right now, so this is kind of my priority to get this thing charging before I go into the code. Sorry about this, guys. But I'll bring up the code so you can look at it while I'm trying to plug in my computer. Come on.
Is it your charger or I have a charger?
I think it's actually the port itself, yeah. Sometimes it goes green, but it's still not charging. Yeah. Shoot. Yeah, maybe Leo, if I could just try your charger.
Yeah. Where's the charger itself?
Yeah. It'd be great if it was just the charger.
I noticed that it picked up the magnet.
Oh shoot, it's a different one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's all good. I'll just keep trying with that one.
You got the older charger.
Yeah, it's 2011. Upgrade. Okay. 9% now. There we go. All right. Okay, so we'll start at the top. So let's see. This is it's a basic single view application that just goes to Google, downloads the Google logo. So that's image URL right here. Then I'm naming it just so I have a name to refer to the file that gets downloaded within the documents directory on the iPhone. And then for this one, on line 18 is the date created. The reason that I have a date created inside of here is that I'd like to use that in the future when I have cached images to figure out if this image was cached maybe last week and this whatever service we're trying to consume maybe has new images come out. I want to kind of self-expire the image that's downloaded in the cache. Kind of future planning. Next, I'm going to go into the view did load. So the way that this would work is it would check with this method right here to see if the image with the name and the date created is within the cache. If it is, then we'll just load it in to the single view application, UI image view. But if it's not, we want to go in and actually do a request through Alamo Fire with the URL right here. Inside of here, I'm going to just move right into it, is the asynchronous Alamo Fire request. It's really straightforward. I really, really like using Alamo Fire. It just simplifies a lot of things. So we make a request with the input URL. We get the data back. If the result is what we're looking for, then we're actually going to take the data in the response and feed it into a UI image, create a UI image right here. Once the image is created right here, we would just populate it into the image view. That's an outlet inside of the main storyboard view controller. And then once we have that image, we would go on to the next steps. So I mentioned the next steps would be saving it to the documents directory and then saving it to the cache. Is that clear? Any questions? Okay. So I'm going to go back up that, let's say that we were able to find the image inside of the cache. It's going to be up here. So check if image is inside of cache. So we just, same two variables we're passing with the image name and the date created. And what we want to do in here is we're just figuring out, we're returning a bool. So if it finds the image, we want to return true. If it doesn't find the image, we want to turn false or return false. That's what we have right here. So right here on line 44, we're going to go into this cacheable image right here and create it. So I'll kind of just show this real quick. It's a very simple class. It just has a file name, a date created, an initializer, and then a way of encoding and decoding the object into user defaults. I wish this was more like robust, but sorry about it, guys. So I'm going to go back to where we were. Finish going through this right here. So we have the cacheable image. If we're able to find it, then we pull it out and we, sorry, we're down here. We unarchive it, and then we just return that we have found it right here, because we would be able to see that this is the file name that they created. If we are not able to find it, then we archive it, save it into user defaults, and then synchronize user defaults. So I'm going to keep going just to make sure I have everything covered. So we did the request with Alamo Fire, and then this is the next piece. So this would be saving the image to the documents directory. So each app has a sandbox, right? Show of hands who's saved stuff into the documents directory inside of an app. Okay, so this is kind of the code right here. You find your documents directory on your phone. The reason you need to go through this process of locating the documents directory is because each app, the path to that documents directory is going to change per app. So you need to go through this process of finding out what that path actually is. Once you find the path right here, you're just going to create a path string so that you create the documents directory, kind of root directory, and then you can append the name of the file after that. So that's how you would be able to write it in. And also it functions relatively the same way to pull it out with this get image from documents directory. And then saving to the cache, I didn't get to implement, but here's the code, and then get the image from the cache. I guess to finish this up, with the cache, it's great because the cache manages itself, that if it has too many items inside of it, it'll start deleting it. And you'll be getting this did receive memory warning before it starts deleting from the cache. So that's what I had prepared for tonight. Any questions?
So you said if the app requires, let's say, you have a photo app, right? And then you know if you something online short, you just like download it. What's like the threshold before starting like deleting it? And there's one thing like if everything that you delete, right, you're trying to put it on cache, right? And load it from cache.
Yeah, exactly.
So could you get into like a delete download loop? If you
That's a great question.
doing it like download enough or need enough images at one time.
I guess the way I structured it is I have a cache. So the flow would be look in the cache first. If you find it in the cache, you're good to go. Pull it from the cache. If you can't find it in the cache, then look inside of the documents directory. So it's kind of like a secondary level. If it's not loaded in the cache, it'll be in the directory. Kind of like a file structure. And then load it. Oh, go ahead. Oh, so then you look in the documents directory. If you don't find it in the documents directory, then download it. So it's kind of like a two-tier step. If you can't find the image along the way, then download it. But I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Okay, no, if you do it, you just for that. So for that second step,
Right.
I thought you mentioned or you had it in there, or maybe on your first time overview. I think you loaded from the documents directory into the cache.
Yes.
And then you load into the app from the cache. So instead of loading directly from the documents directory. Maybe you're misunderstanding maybe there's no connection there. Maybe.
I think there is one, but I like see. What would be the steps there?
I understand that. So you work with the cache first, right? And then you went document
Right.
And if it's on the document directory, then you upload it in the cache.
There you go.
And then from the cache to the app. And
Yep.
that's what I'm thinking. So if you have like
Circle.
download enough, yeah, can you get into look at it?
Shoot, I have to think about that one some more. I think it'll be clearer once I got the code
Okay.
going.
Like it might be a non-issue. Just
But good to think
maybe
about.
you need like gigabytes or something
Yeah.
like that. You know.
I can actually, what might be helpful is I have a big write-up of what I found that I'll just show over here. I don't think I deleted it. Here we go. So this is my research into image caching, and I think the most interesting part is down here. I'm just going to read this out. Do you mind? Okay, here we go. So there's no rules, but a set of best practices for image caching. NS cache might be a good choice because it will be emptied automatically when the system is low on memory. NSCache and persistent storage, either the documents folder or the cache folder, serve largely different purposes. NSCache holds the item in memory and is used for optimal performance. So that would be the full data structure already initialized in NSCache. So it's easy to just pull out. Where am I? Right here. Saving you from needing to re-retrieve the asset via some, shoot, I'm sorry, I'm getting lost right here. NSCache and persistent storage, either the documents folder or the cache folder, serve largely different purposes. NSCache holds the item in memory and is used for optimal performance, but it takes up memory, RAM, and you really should make sure that if you use NSCache, that you respond to memory warnings and purge the NSCache in those cases. And when the app terminates, the NSCache is lost. So I think it's important to comment on that one aspect, because the NSCache is only going to be going if the app hasn't terminated. So it's trying to find a way to keep persistent storage and then also serve the images really quickly. So saving them to documents would be one way of persisting like an image file between app runs.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys want me to continue reading through this?
No, I think.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this has a lot of that stuff, and maybe that answer to the question you asked would be inside of here. I apologize for my computer crashing. I want to present this once I have my computer up and running, and it'll be clear when we can actually go through the code. Yeah. So I guess that's it. And then I wanted to know, do you guys want to flip over to Exercism and just maybe do some rough programming? Yeah, let's just do it. Sure, sure.
Have you actually got to use the cache in actual practice yet?
No.
Because actually, I did a app that used a bunch of web image assets, and I did a little bit of caching myself.
Oh, nice. How did it work out for you?
Well, I didn't get as far as to actually using saving files onto the documents folder. I just was caching the image files that I downloaded from it. So within each app run, you should only have to download the image data one time.
Right.
But I was wondering, because my app would generally get to about, I want to say like 250 megabytes of RAM usage before it seemed like it was taking out some of the previously captured images. So I was wondering kind of what your mileage would have been. And I guess it varies depending on device.
There's something in here about 5%. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Just do a real quick search. Okay, right here. Okay, so that's a different cache because that's the NS URL cache. So a little different, so it doesn't apply.
Actually, that's another interesting thing because I guess in your app here, you're putting an image to the cache and then loading it from the cache.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the image size exceeds the cache size? Would there be some sort of network error there?
Yeah. It'd be good if we could get an explicit count for how big the cache could be, right?
I wonder.
Make a note real quick.
It's saying how big is the cache for like each app. I mean, it should be like standard size, but I don't know we get sample give this specific amount of RAM. The cache for that app.
I think it probably depends on the device as well. Or, I mean, if you have an iPhone 4 on here, it's already configured on the iPhone 7.
Okay. Sort of hardware dependent.
I would guess so. I haven't got that far. That'd be my guess.
I suspect it is hardware dependent.
I'll look into that.
Yeah, I didn't really get as far as trying to optimize or anything like that.
Right, you use it though.
I just thought it was good to have, so I put it in.
Yeah. Okay, so I have that set. So any other questions about caching before we move on to the programming challenge? Okay, we're gonna head over. So I'll do just a brief overview. I think if you can get this, I'm sure every one of you can get this set up on your computer, is exercism.io. So all we're doing is, maybe I'll just start with an overview, is that we have languages, tons of languages you can pick from. And this is a way that you can, with Swift, they have 72 problems set. I just picked one randomly. And so here's the problem. So it's called raindrops in Swift. Convert a number to a string, the contents of which depend on the number's factors. So what I've done is I've used exorcism as a command line call, and it fetches the raindrops exercise for Swift. So I'm going to switch over to my here and just kind of see what is inside of here. So I've downloaded it with exorcism. Here's the project. It creates just a package, and then you need to build the package to create the project. And then this is test-driven development. So what exorcism, the people at exorcism or the people who contribute quizzes, is they give you the tests that this solution, whatever you write, should pass. So show of hands, test-driven development, experience with test-driven development. Yeah, this might be good. So we have like about half an hour, and we don't have to finish it, but I think it'd be really good to start out. So I'm going to open up the Raindrops Xcode project now. I think I might have it open already. Okay, so right here. So I've built the package, and I'm opening up the Raindrops Xcode project right in here. So it's built the package, and you'll see that this is the code. This is where we're writing the code. So there's nothing in here. So this takes you from just 0 to writing code to make these tests pass. Does that make sense? Okay. So how about let's just dive into this, and then we'll just shout it out however we want to go with this. So we've got the Xcode project here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back over to exorcism.io so we can get a real read on what they're asking for right here. Make it a bit bigger so you guys can see. Okay. So raindrops, convert a number to a string, the contents of which depend on the number's factors. If the number has 3 as a factor, output pling. If the number has 5 as a factor, output plang. If the number has 7 as a factor, output plong. If the number does not have 3, 5, or 7 as a factor, just pass the number's digits straight through. So a few examples before we get started. 28's factors are 1, 2, 4, 7, 14, and 28. In raindrop speak, this would be a simple plong. 30's factors are 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. In raindrop speak, this would be a pling plang. 34 has 4 factors, 1, 2, 17, and 34. In raindrop speak, this would be 34. So, does anyone have any ideas of how you want to approach this programming challenge? Any ideas?
Simple, I don't know, switch case or if. I think if might be better instead of just doing like a if else, just do it an if for like each condition.
Okay.
Maybe just add the string to the variable.
Okay, so I'm just going to pseudocode it up then, real quick, and then we'll go from there. And I'm happy if anyone wants to like type in on this computer too, or I'm happy to take just suggestions of what to type up to. So it's up to you guys how you want to do it. So here we go. I'm going to keep this probably on the side, just so we have that there. And then, so this is how we do test-driven development. We have all of our, usually you have one test that you want to work on, get it from red to green, right? Yeah. And then break it again, and then get it from red to green again and again. So for this one, since we're in tests now, and I just want to take one more poll just so I get a feel for where you guys are. Who's used tests inside of Xcode before? Okay. So the way that you run these tests is you do Command U, and that'll run all the tests that have been written inside of here. Tests also are located within this test, raindrop test, right here. So this is the file we're working on. So I'm just going to click in here and press Command U, and we kind of expect this not to run. None of these tests are going to go, yeah? Yeah. So what would be the first step? O'Neill, you said write in some pseudocode, right? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is probably we need to have a class, right? Inside of this raindrops.swift. So I'm just going to start doing this class raindrops and then create that. So that's one thing, right? I'm saving it. I'm going to do Command U to run the tests. I've got 16 failing tests right now, right? So if I head back over, I'm actually going to Option click on this to bring it up in the side view. So I'm right clicking on the test, with option, brings it over on the side for me. Now I don't really need any of these, so I'm going to close this side so we can just see them side by side. So now, by putting in this class right here, I got rid of this error right here because it needs to import the raindrops class, right? So that takes care of that. So what's the next thing? Let's look at this first test. What is this saying? It's saying class raindrops test, which is the file we're in right here, XC test case. It's one of these things. Function test1. I'm going to give kind of broad overview about test-driven development inside of Xcode as well. Any tests that you create inside of these XC tests need to start with the word test. So that's just one gotcha, just to be mindful of. So let's run with this test right here. Function 1. This one will be running. XC test assert equals 1 is equal to raindrops 1 dot sounds. So how are we going to get this equality? Any ideas? Okay, so raindrops 1 dot sounds should equal the string 1, right? Okay, so let's see. You can just shout it out if you guys have ideas. Okay, so function, what do you want to name the function?
Should be named, yeah, but then how you taking the
Class. Okay.
case.
Oh yeah, good point.
It's attached to raindrops,
Right.
not sounds.
So this looks like it's a static function too, yeah? Because it's running on the class itself, yeah? So we'll add static too. Okay. And I'm just gonna really rip through it. So sounds, raindrops 1, what does that mean? It takes 1. It seems like that's maybe an initializer. So it initializes with the 1. The class is initializing with this argument of 1. Does that kind of sound, does that sound not it? Okay, so let's just have raindrops sounds and returns a string, right? For this one, we won't even be mindful of this thing. We'll just try to get it to go here. So we want to return the number 1, a string 1, yeah? So I'm going to just save that. We've got red. I'm just going to do Command U. Command U does all the tests, but now I just want to run this single one. So I'm just going to press this one to run this test right here. Okay. Argument passed to call that takes no arguments. Okay. Raindrops 1. Okay, so I'll start in with initializer. Yeah. So init. It's going to be like a convenience in it because it's taking an argument. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
It's going to take in, that's just a number. So I'm just saying int. It's not named at all either. So we initialize it, and then we should be able to run sounds on that. Convenience init call static.
Set the variable after that to initialize the parameter.
Okay, so I'm going to put input parameter. And then how about let's just set this one so we have it inside of the function? Or what were your thoughts on that one?
So I was thinking like you make it a variable outside the init. You use that variable
Inside of here.
The function.
Inside here?
Into the string. Say like you do it like initialize as insofar parameter semicolon in, and then you just get initialized.
Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So what you're saying?
But you have to initialize the class variable.
You want to come up here and type?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Up to you.
No, I don't know if I'm explaining myself really well. So that's what I was thinking. I don't know. I might be wrong. Is it?
Just go for it.
So if you just go here, I'm sorry, just parameter in, and then I guess we can name it just like that too, right? And then self. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. This is gonna name it input.
Oh, okay.
And then if, I think we should do it like that, it will capture, maybe not. Did brought something wrong. I'll send proper to itself, so just call this input, maybe.
And then I think you might need to initialize the parameter.
So
What is this? Yeah, what is that?
has
It's got to be initialized with something. So you can do the parens.
So just put like equal 0.
Yep. So that initializes right there. Then we got rid of that. Yeah. Before self initializes. So I think that one's not going to be, I don't think you need self in that one.
Because we made it, we put in 0. So complain about it.
Use of self. Oh, maybe you got to put a self.init inside of this convenience init, right on line 8 before that stuff.
Well, self.init.
Yeah. Should build that one. Okay.
Sure, I took it.
Now you got the, yeah, right on. So you got the initializer in there with the input. So how would we call it now? So now when it's initialized, it's getting the input parameter with, that's great, yeah. And then when it calls sounds, it should be returning 1, right? So it looks like it should be right. So we run the test now, and we're assuming that line 5 function test1 should run correctly now, right? We're assuming. If it doesn't, we'll keep working on it.
Well, that's the point, right?
Yep. Here we go. No. Missing argument label input in call. Okay, so I think that it's going to be an unnamed parameter. So put in the underscore. Now it's not required. Saving it, and then I'm going to run it, the test function one more time. Static member sounds cannot be used on instance of type raindrops. Okay. Save. Run. Okay. Function produces expected type string. Let's see what this says. Insert. Okay. So insert sounds. Okay. I want to go back here. Okay. Sounds. Okay, so it's actually going to be. Anybody have any suggestions on this one? I'm also open to like looking at sample solutions to this if you guys want to, or we can keep plugging away at this.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I know if you do an extension of a class and you put a function inside an extension, you can do the dot name.
The function name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like using like raindrop dot sounds. If you put the function sounds inside an extension.
Okay.
You can call it with the dot notation.
Okay. Is this what you mean? Building it, succeeded. Let's try and run this test. return string equals. See, once we put that in there.
So I can't
Yeah,
see it. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
How does that XCT assert equal function?
It's looking for equitability. So it's running the function, and then it's going to compare the output of the function to that first argument inside of XCT assert equal. So our goal is to make this thing equal this thing.
I don't understand what the error message is. So
Yeah, I don't either.
It expects string.
I want to. Okay, here's the readout. This is tough to do this kind of debugging on a 6-year-old laptop. So function produces expected type string. Did you mean to call it with? I'm just going to put it in. This is not going to be a solution, but I just want to see if it runs. If we put this in here. If it runs successfully, we should see what's it called? A check mark. Any other ideas?
So the annotation, right, should be the class function, right?
Oh, this one.
And you say it right. So it didn't like the static before, right?
It seems like it should be static, yeah. Build. Let's run it one time. Just waiting for this to catch up. There we go. So it's thinking that this is an instance. So this is returning an instance of this class. Because we're 100% confident that this is a class method, right? This is returning a class, right? Not an instance. Yeah. What is this one? This error message right here?
No, you removed the static.
Oh, put it back in?
No, you removed it. You didn't rerun it. You went back to the old original error.
Right.
Just curious what that is.
So I'll run it. Build. Function produces expected type string. Did you mean to call it with?
What it says, as you're calling a method, it's not a parameter.
Right.
But I think the purpose of the test is not to.
Yeah, we're not meant to touch the test, but it would help us to.
Maybe the test is broken.
Maybe.
So what? Can test something?
I'm sorry.
Oh no.
So I went through the process while you were introducing platform.
Yeah, exorcism.
And then I checked out the FizzBuzz project.
Okay.
How do I actually go?
Let's go through that real quick. So I'm gonna go to the exorcism website. It really threw me the first time I did it. So I'm just going back to, let's see, probably this one would be best. I'm picking Swift. And then once we go to the Swift one, it tells you how to set these up. So we have the available exercises. Swift is already installed, and then running the tests right here. So did you install Exorcism?
Yeah, so I installed Exorcism. I was able to clone
the
FizzBuzz project.
Okay.
Configure my key for submission.
Okay.
All that work, initialize the shell.
Oh, so do you have so you've downloaded the FizzBuzz project, and so maybe CD into that project?
Yeah, so I'm in the I'm in the radar structure. It's a series of Swift files.
Yeah. So it's this one. This is the next one right here. So just copy and paste this in.
Testing is important. running tests.
Yeah, but this is what you need because you've gone through all the process of already downloading the FizzBuzz package.
That's what I needed, was generate the Xcode.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Then you get the project, and then that'll get us back to speed. So over here.
So, yeah, nothing runs good.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna head back over to Xcode. Guys, we have like 6 minutes. Do you want to just peek at the solution, or you want to keep going at this?
What if there's a variable?
That could be, yeah, like Paul said. Right?
Variable, like a bar.
That's what
Okay.
it sounds. Yeah, they said
Let's do it.
that's that way, so they're expecting a parameter, not a method, right?
Okay, okay. So we'll just create a parameter then. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds. And let's set it to 1. Is that what we're thinking?
String one.
Okay. So we've got that going. Let's save in there. Let's just comment this out real quick. And then I want to build and then run the test. Waiting for it. Build succeeded. Let's run this one. Come on, passing test. Testing. Oh, okay. Okay, testing. Oh, well done, guys. It passed. I just went to these little icons right here. I just click right on it. It turns into a play button. Wow, this one's run already. Computer's just trying to catch up. Click the play button. It just runs that test.
Oh, this is like built-in test functionality.
Yep. Yep.
It's because you're importing XC test or you declared it as testable.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I'll just run from the top over here. We import XC test. We make sure that the raindrops is testable. And then we actually create our test suite. We have to make sure each of these functions starts with the word test.
It's part of the.
That's just, yeah, that's how it is. And then if you want to run all the tests, you do Command U. So it'll run through all the tests. But great, we got that one running.
Does that run all the tests for that file?
Yep, all the tests inside of this raindrops tests.
Is there a way to run tests for test suite?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And then of course the next question is how do you import command line, how do you create that into the CI?
Yeah, you can actually do it on the command line. So they have it.
Part of one.
Yeah, that was written inside of it.
You know, trigger a test. Like if you want to do like a post Meetup, you have that fire up your tests.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So we have that inside of here on the exorcism page. They just, you just run Swift tests.
Well, we're getting on track. I'm sorry.
Oh, we're I'm pretty sure like we kind of established we got the one running test. Have to talk about it.
So we have an Xcode project in our enterprise system, and we have a code repository, which is going to trigger a series of tests. Which, when I do it through a backend, we have a Linux server that is triggered and runs the test using whatever we're using to run the test from the server. How would you do that in the context of Macros? If you were to integrate that pipeline, automated pipeline, pipeline into something in the cloud, what do people do?
I think you would run Swift on the server.
What server? You don't have a Mac server?
No, you can install it on Linux.
Okay.
You can install Swift on Linux.
It's really select, so interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple frameworks there. Perfect. What's the other one? Kitora,
Vapor.
Vapor, that one from Linux.
So any type of test that can be driven from command line, you can just install Swift on Linux.
Yep.
That way. Aren't there things that are specific to the Mac platform beyond just Swift? Because isn't Swift really targeting iOS operating system? I know we're getting into.
It's good. Yeah, I think it's good for us to talk about it.
It's one thing to unit test a series of Swift files.
Right.
It's another to run a test against a real fully loaded.
Do you mean like the UI tests?
That kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. So there's another aspect. This is just Xcode and my own experience with Xcode is that you can automate UI tests as well, but it's a separate kind of functionality. So code-wise, you'd use XC tests. There's other like test frameworks as well. But in terms of UI, if you wanted to automate the testing of the UI, have it load up the view controller, press all the buttons, go to the next one, press. You can actually record yourself doing all that stuff and then rerun it.
curious how, and same question, I'm curious how that would integrate into the cloud.
I think you'd probably need to have Xcode, yeah, for the UI tests specifically. But Swift-wise and programming language-wise, like file-wise, you can run it through on the command line, as long as Swift is installed.
I think anything that uses like Darwin libraries are basically so there might be like certain functionalities that you will not have.
It's probably experimental. I would imagine.
So
Sure, someone's doing it in some type of function somewhere.
yeah, honestly, it's semi-solid, and then there's a newsletter called Swift Web Developers, and I was reading the story of a guy that they're already like an enterprise app with, I think it's with Paper, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's cool.
Paper's one of them. Yeah. So, and I think the front end was React, just because I just got into the front end, but everything back end was in Swift. Yeah, you cringe at that.
No, not cringe. It's amazing. That actually is probably such a new language.
Yeah,
I know
well,
it's growing so fast.
yeah.
It's needing, so,
And,
Well, I just wanted to just be mindful of everyone's time. It's 7 o'clock. If you guys got to go, it's fine. So I should close down.
one copy here.
Yep.
And
What's that?
no, you guys are more.
no, but what I'm saying is, one comment, the code, basically, all developed it in a way that span the server.
Right.
Code is platform dependent. No, I tried to avoid OS specific dependencies, so I could put it into a Linux box, and then put it as a server.
Yep.
When I built the tool, the program, really, I made the models in such a way that I have no OS dependencies.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that I could put this on the base engine.
So there's no UI, right? It's just we're exposed to that API.
Yeah.
That part becomes platform independent. Then
Yeah.
you
The engine
build-
itself is I try to make it as platform independent, no platform dependencies.
So you have like a nicely separated core. from
Yeah, the model.
UI.
Yeah.
So once you actually build an Xcode project, it's already the core is.
Exactly.
Hi. We're just about finishing up. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so next week, O'Neill's going to be covering Swifty Store Kit, and we are good. We're adjourned for today. Thanks so much.